If this bag doesn't encapsulate Dramione, I don't know what does. Hi guys, I'm Kat, aka Noises May Pixel, and I am coming out from a reading slump. A reading slump that has lasted for 4 years since I graduated university. And why? Honestly, I can really thank the creators on TikTok for their amazing Draco edits. So naturally, I have delved deep into the world of fanfictions again, and today I have 3 fanfictions that I want to review and I want to talk about. They are Isolation, Breath Mints / Battle Scars, and Manacled. These reviews are not completely spoiler free. I'll try to be general enough. So first, let's talk about Isolation by Bex Chan. I have loved Isolation since I was in high school, before even like all the movies came out. It's insane how long it has been since then. Draco has to hide from the Death Eaters. He needs a safe place to stay. What do you know? He has no other choice than to live with Hermione in Hogwarts in her dorms while Ron and Harry are off destroying the Horcruxes. So what I love about Isolation is that it really examines the character depth and psyche of both Hermione and Draco. The story is told from both point of views, which I really enjoy. Personally, I prefer reading Draco's point of view in Dramione fanfics because I always feel like the pining is harder and stronger from his end. I also really like the self-conflict that Draco wrestles with every time he starts falling for Hermione or noticing her. Isolation to me is really special because although the plot, there's not too much happening because of the setting, they're both stuck in a room. I really enjoyed that deep delve into their characters, and I really like the interaction between them. I felt like it evolved very realistically, and I also really enjoyed kind of seeing Draco process his prejudices and biases that he grew up with, and realizing that everything that he was taught as a child was not true. My favorite scene in Isolation is when Hermione mixes her blood with Draco's blood and he has a total breakdown and realizes that they both bleed the same red blood, and growing up with this misconception that purebloods and muggleborns have different blood statuses, he starts to question it, and I just thought that was so interesting how Bex kind of played out that whole scene and how that led to the rest of the novel. It's so good. And honestly, I feel like it has become kind of like an inspiration for other fanfiction writers. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but whenever I read scenes in other fanfictions where blood is mentioned, it always reminds me of Isolation because that was just so well done. So I would rate Isolation a 5 out of 5 because I read it in high school, and then it's been so many years, but I've always kind of remembered that it was a really good fanfic, and I reread it recently and it has stood up to the test of time. I enjoy it even as an adult now, like almost 10 years later. So if you're looking for a Dramione fanfic that really focuses on the characters and the interaction between them, I would definitely suggest going for Isolation. Secondly, I want to talk about Breath Mints / Battle Scars. Breath Mints is also set in Hogwarts. In this fanfic, the war has ended, they have won, and the students return to Hogwarts for their final year. But Hermione finds herself a bit more traumatized, a bit more scarred from the incidents of the war. Everyone is smiling, everyone is kind of happy having moved on from the war, but she notices that someone is as unhappy as she is, and that someone else is Draco Malfoy. She has a scar on her arm from her torture session with Bellatrix, and so does he. He has his Death Eater mark, and the story kind of compares their 2 scars and draws parallel between the 2 characters from that. In breath mints, Draco and Hermione kind of have a very strong love-hate relationship. So this one really plays up the enemies to lovers trope, but the hate is kind of always underlying between them. There's a lot of angst, there's a lot of anger, and honestly, this one is very smutty. The relationship evolves through their exploration of their carnal desires. 90% of the book, I would say, is smut. So if you're looking for rough, wild action, this is the one for you. In terms of the story and the plot, it is quite interesting, but that's not really at the forefront, honestly. So yeah. Not too bad. I would say this is more geared towards the older audience though. And finally, I want to talk about Manacled, one of the most popular fanfics currently. Many people preface Manacled by saying that it's dark. Guys, it's not just dark. Dramione fanfics in general are a bit more dark and gritty. That's what we love about them. But Manacled deals with rape. If this is a trigger for you, I would say strongly away. Manacled is a few shades darker than the usual darkness that Dramione brings. And for me, this was a very mixed bag. So Manacled is kind of based on The Handmaid's Tale. It's set in an alternate universe where Voldemort won the war, Harry and Ron are dead. So most of the Order. Hermione had been captured towards the end of the war. She had been thrown in solitary confinement for the past few years and her mental state is not very good. In this fanfic, she is chosen to breed with Draco Malfoy, and she also has a large part of her memories locked away. No one can access it. So Draco is also tasked with trying to break through her memories. So the story is broken into 3 arcs. It's a really long story, and the first arc is kind of the present. Hermione is taken out of captivity and brought to Draco Malfoy's home, his manor. And we really see the story completely from Hermione's point of view, and she is broken, guys. And I don't mean like broken in a way where she just has to overcome her trauma and fix herself. She is struggling to exist. For me, this was hard to read. I didn't find it particularly enjoyable, and the story doesn't move forward much in this arc. She also doesn't have very much interaction between her and Draco, which I found a little bit disappointing. He would come in and out for very brief moments. The second arc is where the story picked up for me. I much preferred it. It was the flashback of her actual relationship with Draco and how that developed. But I also found it frustrating that the story flowed in this manner, because I think I would have preferred like flashback present to have it both interwoven in the story. But the way it was broken up was just a huge chunk of the present, a huge chunk of the past. By the time we got to the past, I was finally actually invested in the present. So it was very jarring for me to switch gears into the past. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but in the third arc, Hermione is pregnant, and the way pregnancy is shown in this fanfiction is honestly traumatic. If this was how pregnancy actually worked in real life, there would be a lot less humans on this earth, because it is honestly scary. I did not like it at all. She was extremely weak and extremely frail and dependent on Draco, and I don't know, guys. Manacled for me just didn't do it. I didn't really see the stuff that I am seeking for from a Dramione fanfic, which is mainly the interaction between the two characters. It's widely recommended. Personally, I didn't like it, but do let me know what you think, and if you have any suggestions for what fics I should check out next, please drop them down below. I feel like once I've read enough fanfictions, I kind of want to arrange them in like a tier list. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys soon.